What about, speaking of right to privacy, you and I have been around long enough to remember that the U.S. Supreme Court talked about a right of privacy in Griswold v. Connecticut, and then that was expanded into Roe v. Wade back in 1973. That's been the law of the land ever since. Do you support Roe v. Wade?
I frankly think it would have been better if the United States Supreme Court had said, we're leaving this decision to the states. I think that's where it belongs. I think states as sovereigns should be able to make a determination about a right and about equal protection when it comes to the very personal and difficult decision of abortion. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court chose to create a right, and we have seen this become the most divisive social issue of our lifetime, certainly. And the fact that we continue to relitigate it tells me that people still feel very strongly about it. But this is a decided question. The Supreme Court of the United States has said this is the way it is, and there is a right to choice. Women can decide personally with their doctor and their family and their faith whether they want to have an abortion or not. I support the law. I do as Attorney General. I do as governor. I think if you're going to be an elected official, you need to support the law. You can have a personal opinion that is different, but that to me is a settled question. And we really need to move on from that. People have deep personal beliefs about this. And I have all the respect in the world for people who have a religious belief one way or the other. But as a government, as a society, we have a court ruling that tells us this is where the line is. Let's go forward.
Right. It is a divisive issue. And as a lawyer, I would agree with you that the Supreme Court seemed to overreach and take the decision away from the states. I grew up in Colorado, and I remember it was Dick Lamb, a former governor, who, when he was a legislator, sponsored some of the first abortion on demand laws here in Colorado. So even before Roe v. Wade, we had abortion on demand. But the abortion debate, especially if President Trump gets a couple more appointments like Neil Gorsuch, it could come back to the states. And I think it would be even more divisive because then every state rep race, every state senate race, and certainly every governor's race would hinge on what would Colorado do. And we're seeing around the country now there are lots of states that are putting severe restrictions on a woman's access to abortion. And listen, you're talking to me and not any other talk host, and we all have to state our opinions. And I believe in a woman's right to choose in the first trimester, and I'm wondering if you agree with me.
You know, it's the labeling that bothers me.
Well, I'm not
Craig,
putting a label on it.
No, I'm
not saying you're pro-abortion, but should a woman have a right to choose to terminate her pregnancy in the first trimester or not?
I believe that's what the law says, and I believe so.
But in your heart, do you think that's right, or do you think that's murder and taking of an innocent human life?
I think we have made a decision as a society that this is the right of a woman, and I don't disagree with that.
And then there was a bill put before the Congress this week that said after 20 weeks that the human embryo can feel pain. The brain is developed to the point where pain is felt. And the legislature, our Congress, had to make a decision on that. That's where I would have said, I think at that point it's a different thing. Do you know how you would have voted on that 20-week bill?
I think at that point it's a different thing also. I have not read all of the research. I've not followed the debate. So saying how I would have voted it's a bit of conjecture because I wasn't there. But I think we have seen science and technology evolve greatly since the Supreme Court made its decision. And I think revisiting when an abortion is safe and should be legal is a question that our society may want to look at again and with a different court.
Even as a person who believes in a woman's right to choose in the first trimester, I was tremendously disturbed by the Planned Parenthood videos that showed selling of baby parts. These were well-developed embryos, almost to the point of viability, and organs were harvested and sold. And some of it had a connection to Colorado, and an argument could be made that you as Attorney General should have stepped in. Do you agree with that? And why didn't you do something about it?
I know that was a very significant issue and a disgusting video from the parts that I saw. Colorado law vests the authority in the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment to regulate the sale of fetal tissue and body parts. And that is an agency of the executive branch, not a responsibility or an authority that the Attorney General's office has. I think it's confusing sometimes to people who think that, like some other state AGs, we can go out and investigate whatever we think is happening in Colorado that is possibly violative of the law. We can't as attorney generals. Colorado has not given an attorney general that kind of power. So we have to work through the system as it is in the statute books. And that's where the authority is, and that hasn't been changed.
Some Republicans simply will not vote for an individual who does not say, I'm pro-life and proud of it. What would you say to those kind of Republicans?
Well, there are a lot of Republicans and independents who won't vote for someone unless they say they're pro-choice. So I think, as we have said, we're coming back to the fact that this is a polarizing issue. What I think is unfortunate is that for all the people who say we want to elect a Republican and have a Republican governor in this state, we keep bringing up the most divisive issue and waving it around and having the discussion and further polarizing people. We put people in the position of having to make a choice about their candidate based on a single issue. And whether it's abortion or gay rights or guns, I don't think that's a responsible way to approach and speak to the electorate. I think we need to give people more credit that they can choose to vote for a candidate when they agree with 75 or 80% of what they think. They don't have to have a 100% match.
Back to